ladies. My name is Julia. I am super excited to host this webinar for you. And I'm very grateful that you have joined us. And actually, being grateful is my main biohack. So already shared with you first biohack for today. This webinar is one of the events organized by Biohacking Congress. Why do we do this? Because we believe that biohacking is really powerful and can make positive changes for each individual and globally. And we put in the effort to frame knowledge in such way when more people can accept it. If you are not with Biohacking Congress on social media yet, please join us, please stay tuned, and let's progress together. And by the way, good connections is one of the best biohacks as well, because women with good network will release more oxytocin, which is also called as love hormone. So spending some good time with right people is one of the easiest biohacks. And we invite you to join our next webinars and our virtual meetup in May. There you can discover new solutions and new technologies in digital health, biotech, and health tech areas, and learn from industry experts, entrepreneurs, and investors. And with great pleasure, I invite you to join our big virtual Biohacking Congress in July 17th. There will be perfect speakers, biohackers, researchers, and authors of bestsellers, and you can get acquainted with a lot of specific information on health optimization, performance optimization, and longevity. So we organize webinars on different topics, and today is very beautiful and wonderful topic, biohacking for females. A lot of biohacking tools, technologies, and products for men. And most of industry players are men. However, I would say that women are original biohackers. We have been manipulating our hormones to control pregnancy for 1,000 years ago using lunaception. And generally speaking, women are more in tune with our body than men. And this makes us prime candidates for biohacking, and we see that every day more products for females, more biohacking tools, more biohacking technology it enter the market, and more women become influencers and inventors in this biohacking world. So today we will discuss what is the difference between biohacking for men and women, and what are the best biohacks for females. And we will discuss it with our beautiful speakers, with Johanna Thomas-Langoy, PureJo. Hello, Johanna. Johanna is biohacker, holistic health and wellness coach, and nutritionist. Also with us today, Dasha Maximov, who is co-founder of Women's Biohacking Collective. Hello, Dasha. And one more great speaker, Fiona Austin, positive psychologist specializing in anxiety solutions. Hello, Fiona. Hello, Dasha and Johanna. Please tell us more about yourself. And first, Johanna, please introduce yourself to our guests today.
Thank you, Julia. It's an honor to be a part of this webinar with my two fellow female biohackers, Fiona and Dasha, whom I greatly admire. Julia and the Biohacking Congress, thank you for pulling this all together. It's going to be a great webinar. So who am I? My name is Johanna Thomas-Langoy. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and a certified hoppy egg handler. So over 2 years ago, I set up my company called PureJo, which is basically holistic health and wellness coaching. I have private individuals. I do bespoke health for them, and they're located mainly in Dubai, Australia, London, New York, LA, and globally, basically. So I found my life passion after a roller coaster of experiences that brought me to establish PureJo. From being bullied as a child to feeding a sugar addiction, suffering from anxiety, excess partying, excess exercising. I had amenorrhea, which is basically a loss of periods for 10 years. Hypothyroidism, hair thinning, mild osteoporosis of the lumbar spine. I had a nervous breakdown. I had depression, adult acne, 3 cancer scares, food intolerances, SIBO, mold toxicity, and sciatica. So I've had my fair share of health and wellness problems. But this life experience, I feel, is priceless, and it makes me accessible to my clients. I'm able to relate to them better and connect to them. So I basically spent thousands of pounds traveling all over the world to try and fix myself. But then I realized that medications were not the answer, and I needed to educate myself, study and learn and find out the root causes of the problems. And that's only when you can properly heal. So PureJo coaching basically assists individuals in achieving and maintaining optimum wellness. I advise them about healthy nutrition, supplementation, about fitness, about non-toxic beauty and home care products, other natural holistic lifestyle changes, plus methods to cope with stress and mind management, and also how to biohack their lifestyle based on their biology and their genetics. So I work in harmony with the body to decrease any deficiencies and toxicities. And this is what leads to disease. I help them find the root cause of their problems. PureJo is all about using food as medicine. I believe in bioindividuality, which is basically no two bodies are created the same. So no diet is going to work for everybody. No plan is going to work for everybody. I help people to find their individual healing foods, supplements to love, respect, and nourish their body and mind. The body is an amazing dynamic system. It's self-regulating, self-healing, self-repairing. So given the right nutrition, a well-functioning nervous system, a strong immune system, a balanced gut microbiome, and a healing environment, it will rebuild itself. So I also established something called the unique PureJo Home and Work Holistic Habit Healing Workshop. This is basically where I go to my clients' office or homes and I study them for a whole day. Then the next day I tell them how to do everything more holistically healing. So whether it's from the toothpaste that they use, to the way that they exercise, how they exercise, to their lunch choices, to their shampoo choices, their body cream, everything. So I take them to the supermarket, we clear out their pantry, we clean out their personal care products, and I put everything in place. And I teach them basically how to go about their day more holistically healing. So when I leave, everything's set and it's all nice and easy and they can just carry on their day. So that works really well. I do believe that natural wellness is what we all deserve. Health is the real wealth, and the decisions we make today will define our tomorrow. So we have only one body and we have to live in it forever. So the ultimate goal basically is to be fit, happy and healthy whilst preventing disease, delaying the signs of aging, and living a long and productive life. I came across biohacking last year when I realized what it entailed, I was like, no, I've been doing this for years, not knowing that biohacking was what it was called. So every day I do tons of biohacks just to ensure that I have a happy mind, body, and spirit, and that I'm the best version of myself. And I'm really excited to be here to share it with you today.
Okay, Joan, thank you. And now, Dasha, please tell us about you.
Hi, everyone. Happy Saturday, and coming from you from California here. My name is Dasha, and Joe, everything that you said, I completely echo all of it. From living a life of, thinking about everything holistically and not just saying, oh, I'm just going to take these supplements, or I'm just going to do this one thing, or this is the one size fits all the way down to just thank you, Julia, for organizing this. So all around, completely echo that. From my standpoint, so my background, I was a management consultant for 8 years. I did M&A, mergers and acquisitions. So very, very go, stress. Kind of minimum working hours was at least, a normal day was 15 hours, if not longer, right? And so it was a traveling lifestyle, it was high stress. I ended up getting a stomach ulcer when I was 23. I ended up curing that naturally, and then that started spiraling me into, wait, there's actually other things out there that I can cure things naturally. My mom has now had cancer 3 times, so that also got me quite scared about my health and saying, wait, could I do something with this? So fast forward, I ended up leaving, taking a sabbatical in India, potentially looking into becoming an Ayurvedic doctor. Decided that wasn't my route. However, I was always interested in health, and specifically brain health. Reason that I was interested in brain health is because I had, at that point, already had 5 concussions. So I was one of those people that just lived life to the fullest. So the first one was a car accident. Car flipped twice. We just got pushed over the side of the road. And so at this point, I kind of have always thought that this is a second life that I'm living. And I'm very, very grateful to even have this life, to be able to sit and chat with you all. The other concussions were all sports related. So skiing, mountain biking, kiteboarding, wake surfing. And so I've always been just really quite active. So that's why I got really interested in the brain. So from that standpoint, I ended up leaving consulting and doing a complete 180-degree shift and saying, all right, well, here I have the rest of my life to go. I could either continue down this path of stress and a lucrative life, I suppose, or I could find something that was really interesting to me, which again was the brain. So I went to London and started on my master's in neuroscience. So I went from business to neuroscience, which was a pretty big shift, but one that was really good in that it ultimately got me to London. And unfortunately, though, while I was studying, I ended up having another concussion. So it's one of those things that once you already had one brain injury, it's a lot easier to get more. There's a higher propensity for it, as well as there's just a higher chance of you getting them. So I ended up getting another concussion, this time salsa dancing. That's another story for another time. Give me a call, I'll tell you about it later. But that one was a real doozy. And that one was the one that really took me out of it all. Part of the reason I think is that between my 5th and 6th concussions, I had root canals. I had wisdom teeth removed. So I believe that there might have been a reason as to why that last concussion was really a doozy. So I ended up completely, trying to go the normal route and seeing a number of different specialists, and all of my tests ended up saying that I was fine. So that's one thing, and we'll get to this later about testing and how important testing is. I think there's also very much a place for understanding and believing in your own intuition, because sometimes these tests don't actually end up telling us really what is going on fully. So all my tests showed, nothing really, nothing bad. I went to 14 different specialists in 4 countries, tried everything to try and fix my brain. My symptoms were, I had complete depression, chronic headaches, amnesia, just not remembering what I had read the day before, just up and down emotionally. And then I happened upon this world of biohacking. So again, I came just kind of like Johanna, I came to this world of biohacking as a term quite soon, or rather quite recently. I feel like I've always been a biohacker to some extent, because a biohacker is also somebody who just really looks into and plugs in to say, okay, what does this food do to me? How do I feel? What can I do to test and then do something better, right? So it is about testing, but it's also about understanding how your body works and how you yourself feel about it. Anyways, I digress. I ended up getting into biohacking because, again, the doctors that I was going to, I wasn't getting answers. And I figured, well, these doctors, maybe they're seeing me for 20 minutes, maybe they're seeing me for 2 hours, because some of these doctors were incredible and they really spent a lot of time with me. But I'm the one that's going to have to live with my body and my brain for, the past 3 decades, and for the past, hopefully, 8 more decades, I don't know, right? And so I figured I should take control of this. And that's where I came into the biohacking world. So last year, I helped organize the Health Optimization Summit in London. I don't know if any of you guys had a chance to either come and visit with us or got to listen to the videos online. We had it was a beautiful, beautiful kind of conglomeration of people and knowledge. We had a great number of speakers, and yeah, it's happening again this year. Now, this year, what I've decided to do is focus more on women's health, because what I saw last year was, as I was going to a number of different conferences and meeting a number of women, I noticed that there was this niche that was missing. And while we have a number of different incredible speakers and incredible experts who have given us really great knowledge, there isn't enough specificity on what works for us as women. You know, is a ketogenic diet good for us? Should we be doing fasting? If so, how long? You know, there are these types of questions that I didn't think was really being researched. So this year we started the Women's Biohacking Collective. We're actually renaming it to WealthCo, so Women's Health Community, WealthCo, in part because biohacking is fantastic, but ultimately biohacking, why are we doing it? We are biohacking for health. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, great story. Thank you for sharing this information with us. And so, Fiona, please tell us more about it.
Hi, my name is Fiona Austin, and my, I suppose, standing here is that I'm the mum and the older, hopefully wise, contributor to this chat. And I think when you've got children, you become a little less reckless, perhaps. I started my career as a music journalist, and that takes you to maybe not the most healthy places, but certainly the more fun places. And but when I had my two children, I thought, okay, I want to live better, live more. And I thought, after some things that were going on in my life, that I would go to Spain for a few months. And I looked at my watch, and it was 8 years. And I had been living an incredible, an amazingly fortunate life. You would walk on the beaches with sunrise, with red light. You would go through the spectrum, and you would finish your days with your friends with a tinto de verano on the beach and just some good conversation. I was also friends with someone who was focusing on peak performance, and he introduced us to bulletproof coffee and weird words. And I just thought, this sounds really interesting. But like both of you have just said, I realized that a lot of this biohacking stuff I was living. I was walking barefoot. I was fortunate to have the biggest and best biohack, which is an incredible bunch of friends. And we had a community, and we were eating good food. We had a local bar, shout out to Bossa. And there we got our olive oil, our avocados, our really life-giving coffee that set us for the day. And we were happy. And that was something, after I came back to London, I realized, oh my God, this is different. And every day, my regime, my life, my necessity to live healthy and have my kids who are no longer, feral, I realized that I was biohacking more and more. I was aware of what it was. You just can't go too much barefoot down to the local park. So how can you balance that out? The water, we had been before going to the local spring and filling up water. We were doing things naturally that were good for us. So I would say I'm a natural biohacker, and I am always searching for different ways to make sure I can live as congruently as I think our biology is supposed to live. Always trying to detox. I don't drink too much, but I don't not drink. So to live well, but not like a monk, but to be aware that our food isn't our medicine anymore, that we have to take in more, that our water is toxic, so we have to biohack our water. I am no longer a music journalist. I'm a therapist and have been for 20 years. And so I would say I'm a psychohacker, which is scary. It's how to make yourself feel good, but mentally. And that makes my practice different, because I make sure people are outside walking, that they're getting fresh air, that they understand that it's not just an aimless walk like your granny would say, but that you're getting vitamin D, that you're filling up your biology with good practices and good health. And I feel so incredibly fortunate to be here today to let people know that we can take charge of us, that we don't have to sit in KFC and eat bad food, that eating good food has a reason, that living a good life has a reason, and you can start tomorrow, today, tonight, if you sleep well. So that's it.
Thank you, Fiona, Dasha, Johanna. I'm super excited to have such great speakers today with such special stories. Before we will start the discussion with speakers, I would like to know more our guests. And dear guests, before we start, I would like to ask one question to you. Where are you now on a biohacker scale? I'm together with my business partner Vic. We put this one question in special table on your desktops, and you can choose one of the answers. So there you can see 3 answers. Please choose one answer.
So you want to know from us what's our journey, or what our level is?
No, this is question for guests, not for
okay.
Yeah, I know you. I know speakers level. Okay. Yeah, so 69% today. I have been using some practices and technologies for my health optimization and checked results for some time already. So most of our guests today have some experience in biohacking. 19% I don't know what is biohacking yet. And 12, I would like to start my biohacking journey. I am learning from blogs, books now, and maybe somebody read Dave Asprey's book as well. Good, so now we know that our guests have some experience, some knowledge about biohacking. Let's start our discussion. So my first question will be, what is biohacking to you? If we are talking about what is biohacking according to Dave Asprey, it means it is art and science, how to change environment inside you and outside you to get more power over our biology, and this allow us to make the best version of ourselves. But biohacking is very individual, and it's very important where and why we start biohacking. Now, please tell us more. What is biohacking for you? Johanna, then Dasha, and then Fiona.
Okay, so biohacking to me means the difference between thriving and surviving. I mean, we live in a toxic world now. We're exposed to thousands of toxins a day, and they all take their toll on the body. They build up over time as the liver can't process them quick enough. We need to discover ways, changes, hacks in our lifestyle and our biology that enable each of us to live our best selves at optimal health, despite all that we are surrounded by. By biohacking yourself, you can actually transform your body so that you feel more energized, productive, and overall the best version of yourself when you need it. The measures and tactics will be different for everybody. No two people are the same. I believe in bio-individuality, as I said, so it's kind of about trial and error, unless you work with a holistic health or wellness coach, which we can help you sort of nail in a lot quicker. For me, I biohack, as I said, tons of things every day on a holistic level. And by that, I mean looking at the body as a whole. There isn't going to be one biohack that will transform your life, I'm afraid. You're going to probably use multiple biohacks to get the proper feelings that you desire. And some of them cost a lot of money, and others don't. You get them for free. So we are complex, dynamic creatures. We need to find the biohacks that work for us. Ultimately, I want to die young at a ripe old age. I want to prevent illness. Prevention is always better than cure. I want to live well, create healthy habits all the time, and also become a better person. These days, I believe that people have become human doings rather than human beings. Thankfully, now with the corona mania, people are forced to slow down. We are addressing our wellness and having to go inside because we can no longer go outside. So I think it's important that everybody just takes time to breathe and appreciate all we have and who we are.
Okay, thank you. Dasha, what is biohacking to you?
I love, Joe, what you just said in terms of a toxic world. So for me, biohacking is figuring out how to be optimal in this toxic world. And what I mean by that is oftentimes it's figuring out how to bring natural things, natural modalities into this unnatural world, right? So if it's red light therapy, if it's cold thermogenesis, if it's grounding, all of these things are things that, you know, we end up doing when we're on vacation, when we're in nature, because now nature to me ends up being the best cure and the best doctor. If we were living more in nature, we probably wouldn't be having half of these issues, right? We wouldn't be having to think about blue blocking glasses to stop the glare and having blue light off your screen. We wouldn't have to be thinking about, you know, cold thermogenesis because probably you'd be swimming in a lake or you'd be swimming in a cold ocean, right? We wouldn't have to be thinking about how all these sleep hacks that we have going on, because without electricity, we would just be naturally going to sleep, like kind of when the sun went down or very shortly after. So to me, biohacking is figuring out a way to try and be optimal in this really toxic world that we've got going on, and trying to kind of undo the problems that we've created for ourselves.
Nice, nice. Let's remind that we are talking about what is biohacking to our speakers. Mick, please write this question somewhere to let our guests know what we are talking about. So next, Fiona, please tell us, what is biohacking to you?
Biohacking, for me, I think it's the same for everybody. It's about living in the modern world, because we are no longer hunter-gatherers, and the minute we started farming, we got gnarly teeth and got shorter and weren't so healthy. So for me, biohacking is health optimization, straight, uncomplicated. And so if you're going to, it's about being more aware. Because my area is the psychological angle, the emotional angle, the biggest thing is in my territory is if you feel something, don't go, oh, and ignore it. So it's being more aware of how you feel and what the message is, and don't try to push it away. So hear what's going on, but you've got to live well too. And a lot of the general anxiety that people feel is because we're not living our best life. So it's about being kind of truer biologically, living physiologically and mentally.
Thank you. I see that we have some text in chat. Dear guests, you will be able to ask questions to our speakers through special pool. Vic, please explain to guests how they will be able to ask questions. but I would like that to have questions from guests after our discussion. And now, please tell us what is the main biohack for you, which you think is the most important for women. I understand that it is very individual and depends from each individual goals, healthy goals, but with some advice from you, the main biohack for women. Johanna?
Me? Sorry. Okay. Gosh, well, there are so many. And if I'm advising another woman, I would say it kind of depends on their main ailments. But I know that what impacts my health the most in terms of a free hack is sunshine, natural vitamin D. I love the sun. I grew up as a baby in the sunshine. So I know we've all been told for years to avoid the sun and cover ourselves in all this toxic sun cream. But this is leaving many people highly deficient in vitamin D. And most of my sick clients that come to me and they've got cancers and things, they are all 100% deficient in vitamin D. That's something that goes through all the spectrums. So for me, I'm solar powered and I feel 100 times better after getting some sun on my body. I love to be by the sea in nature. I love to swim with the fishies. And the sea is like a mental scrub to me. The ocean is basically like my therapist. I also think that having a health and wellness coach or somebody to guide you is great. So obviously I guide myself, but I have a team as well that help me, you know, so with the certain things that I'm working on at various times in my life. It's vital that every woman basically listens to her body, get to know it, love it, nourish it, talk to it, understand who you are and what your normal is. Because then when things can go out of balance, you'll notice that and you can do something about it. Investigate it, test it. Knowledge is power. In terms of my top pay for biohack, I would have to say something that I actually did recently and it has blown my mind. It's first of all, you have to get your 23andMe done, so your genetic DNA testing done. And once you've got that raw data, that gives you some interesting feedback and some knowledge. But then once you've got that data, you send that data to an analyst. And I highly recommend a guy called Dr. Anthony J, who works for the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And basically what he does is he then puts it through some software and you get like a manual, an instruction manual to your body based on your DNA. Now, basically everybody, DNA doesn't change. So these results are forever throughout your life. You know, if you do a stool sample, that will change. If you take blood, that'll change. So food intolerances, they all change, but your DNA doesn't change. So what you get in terms of the results, you can adjust your nutrition, your lifestyle, your exercise, your environment according to what your genetics need. In a way, it's kind of like epigenetics, the power to control your genes. You know, you can control the way that they will be expressed, so you can turn them on or off. So for me, that has been life-changing. I wish I had have done it 35 years ago. So that's my personal top pay for biohack. And finally, I would just say that, you know, we make around 35,000 decisions a day. So most people make really bad choices, and most people could make all those choices in a healthier, more healing way. So for example, you know, how do you start your morning? Do you have a cup of tea with milk and sugar, or do you have hot water with lemon? You know, or there's throughout the whole day, everything you could think, right, how could I do this healthier? How could I do that healthier? And it's about creating healthy habits, because the decisions we make today will define our tomorrow. So I'm obviously big on nutrition, being a holistic nutritionist. What we put into our body becomes us. What we put onto our body becomes us. And that's really important to me as well. So, and I love everything about health and wellness. So I could talk for hours, but I'm going to let everyone else get some words in.
Thank you, Johanna. Dasha, what about you? What is the main biohack which you recommend for women?
Yeah, so for me, and I'll kind of answer a question at the same time with this. The biggest one is sleep. It has to be sleep. Everything else for me falls second, third, fourth, fifth, right? Reason being, if I don't sleep well enough, I'm jacking up my cortisol probably for the next day, right? I am craving more foods. A lot of times when we don't sleep, our hormones go in disarray, specifically leptin and ghrelin. So there's two hormones that end up telling you whether you should take food in and that you're hungry, which is ghrelin. I remember it as ghrelin for go and leptin for leave, right? So those two hormones end up telling you whether you should be eating more in or not, whether you're actually full or not. And what ends up happening is if you don't sleep well, then that hormonal imbalance ends up getting messed up. So therefore you wake up in the morning, you end up saying, oh, you know what? I need that bagel, right? I need those quick carbs. I need something that's really, really savory, rather than actually looking for something else, which might be actually more nutrient dense, but not actually kind of giving you, like, feeding into those cravings, into those sugary cravings. So the reason I say that sleep is the most important is once you get sleep down, then, and because one of the biggest things and one of the biggest differences between men and women, in my opinion, is ultimately our hormones, right? And our hormones, so if you end up getting sleep, if you fix sleep, then you can start focusing in on your gut. You can start focusing in on hormones. But it's almost like if you start flipping it and saying, all right, I'm going to focus on balancing my hormones, but you still haven't figured out the sleep portion of the equation, then you're just doing it backwards, right? So I think it's also, sleep is one of those things where often a lot of people talk about it, but we say, okay, yeah, fine. I'm going to go and do other things which are more expensive or just kind of more difficult to do. So sleep, to me, I think from my previous life, and in terms of the question from somebody about cortisol deteriorating your brain and your body, I think the biggest thing that I would recommend there is focusing on sleep. And so what I would say with that is that most often what's happening right now is that people wake up in the morning and they're exhausted, right? They are grabbing for that cup of coffee. They're still sluggish for an hour or two in the day. And so then they have that continuous just level of malaise and not having energy, right? And then all of a sudden after dinner, all of a sudden you get the spike. And you're saying, okay, well, I can't go to sleep now. And why can't you go to sleep? Because you've got this massive spike. You're ruminating about things. You're looking at blue lit screens that are completely stopping your body from having that melatonin. And so you're shooting yourself in the foot. So from the first biohack, specifically for women, I mean, it's for men as well, but for women, because our hormones are so fickle, if you will, I would say focus on the sleep first. And later on, I can say kind of what my top tricks are. But quickly following after sleep, my second biohack would be grounding. Grounding is something that, again, it's free, and oftentimes it's overlooked. There's a great book by Clint Ober, Earthing. Also, there's a movie as well, where he talks a lot about it. There's grounding mats that you can go and get. There's grounding strips for your sneakers. You can do that as well. But you can also just go into a park and you can walk barefoot. If you guys remember the last time that you were really chill and really calm, chances are it was if you were, walking around in the sand or walking on a beach, or if you were, playing with your kids in a park, right? We forget how important that is. And truly, ultimately, when we're saying, what earthing can do, and that's the name of the book, Earthing. Actually, I have it here. Earthing. What you are doing when you are walking barefoot is that you're picking up those electrons from the earth, right? You want to be ultimately net negative. Now, what do these devices do? What do all these devices do? They steal electrons from us. Ultimately, we want to be net negative. And so by being net negative, i.e. having more electrons, you end up reducing inflammation. So there's a benefit of grounding, of ultimately reducing inflammation. And inflammation right now is, they're saying that it's one of the top causes of diseases. So sleeping and figuring out your sleep, getting back to more of a circadian rhythm. So you're waking up with the sun, going to bed quite soon after the sun goes down, and then grounding. which is walking barefoot on in the park or on the sand or something like that.
That's such a great news. So basic biohacks and main biohacks could be very simple and doesn't cost too expensive.
No, and I think I love that you're saying that point, because I think with biohacking, oftentimes I get asked and people say, well, it's so expensive. Well, yes, it is expensive to get all the toys, right? And when you're at that next level. But right now, the point of this webinar is kind of women's biohacking 101, right? It's saying what are the main things that we can do first, and then we can graduate, right? And Johanna, your point about having a DNA test is fantastic, and absolutely, could not agree with you more about if once you get to that next level, yeah, absolutely test it, right? But perhaps what if we were to start with some of the low-hanging fruit, which is sleeping, which is grounding, which is also from a stress standpoint, starting to figure out, okay, can we, is there breath techniques that we can do? And again, you can have apps that have, teach you how to breathe, that you can pay money for. That's perfectly fine. So but I have an issue when people say that biohacking and that health has to be expensive. It doesn't. It absolutely does not. It just might require a little bit more willpower to say, okay, I'm going to take a cold shower, which is going to last me 10 minutes instead of going to pay X amount of pounds or dollars for a cryo chamber, right? Both achieve similar, not the same, but similar purposes. But yes, one is free. One requires a little bit more money, but a little less time.
Nice. I also like your life hack. If you want to eat, just go and sleep. So yeah, let's use it all time. Okay. Fiona, what is biohacking to you? I already know a little bit about it.
Well, I think I'm the same as Johanna and Dasha, but so rather than duplicate, obviously sleep is the big one, but you sleep well if you live your day well. So my ones would be 1 cup of coffee, but with my coffee, I add chaga mushroom to every coffee in the morning, and it's amazing. And if you live in the sun, it's chock full of melanin, but it also is hugely anti-inflammatory. It has 6,000 times the amount of benefits than all of the potassium and magnesium and so on. It's wonderful for reducing stress. And when I came back here, since my profession is to basically help city livers live better and they're all stressed, if you're going to have a cup of coffee, have a coffee cocktail. Do things that make it amazing. So I have 1 coffee a day. I have my chaga in with my coffee, and it tastes beautiful, and I don't like mushrooms. Also, make sure that you have your magnesium, because it's better than an antidepressant. But understand that magnesium is best absorbed in your body. So at night, have a bath with Epsom salts, or get magnesium spray that you can put under your tongue, because then it misses your gut. Vitamin D supplements, if the reason why people get flu in the winter is because we reduce our vitamin D. So we're very lucky in the UK at the moment. We've got a heap load of sun, and that is helping. So if you can't get straight vitamin D, go for D3 and balance it with vitamin K. So it's about being aware to balance the toxic world with your supplements. So in the morning, I make a big smoothie for my kids and myself, and it's like a pot from Macbeth, or the one with the witches. And, we've just got everything in there that will bolster them for the day. And there's chlorella, spirulina, vitamin D, and their fruit or the spinach or whatever, and we whiz it up with coconut milk. And at least I know with the junk that they'll have during the day, it's making and starting your day right. but it's important for me professionally to be aware of the supplements that help people reduce their anxiety. And the core ones are magnesium, zinc, and chaga, investigate mushrooms, and then I help people understand using CBD, because that is an incredible hack, and it's antidepressants, they just have been proven to really not be biologically, especially for a woman, and if you combine them with the pill, they're not really helping. So if you get your supplementation, your vitamin levels, become aware, because being a biohacker is about starting to question, starting to understand what it is that you're putting into your body. If you're tired and you're propping yourself up with a cup of coffee, go, really, is this the best thing to do? Or maybe have a ginger shot instead. So it's about being aware. And for me, I'm adding to what the girls were saying, and I'm saying, start to be aware of your supplementation and how you take it.
Thank you, Fiona. Now we have one question which I would like to ask now. Our guest curious about your daily morning and night routine. So you talked a lot about importance of sleep, well sleep, good sleep, and our guest curious to know how do you start and finish your day.
Want to go first?
Yeah, I guess that Dasha told a lot about sleeping, and also Fiona, so please tell us.
Sure. So I'm crazy. Start with that. So I wake up usually I haven't used an alarm for a long time because my body naturally has learned to wake up. So usually around 6:30 is what my body will naturally wake up to. The key for me is to get sunlight into my eyes the first thing that I can, right? So oftentimes I post pictures about the sunrise because I just find it to be that is my alarm clock, right? Once you get light into your eyes, that's what actually starts the day. So it hits the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and then it starts everything through to your pituitary gland, and then kickstarts the entire process in your body. So for me, it's critical to try and get that sunrise in, and not look at my phone. There's one guy who many of you probably know, Matthew Walker. He wrote a book called Why We Sleep. One of the things that he says is to not have any phones in the morning, right? Try as much as you can not to look at it for the first 5 minutes at least. If you can increase that to a longer period of time, then that's better. Reason being that oftentimes when we look at the phone, when we turn it on, what ends up happening? Bing, 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 bing. You get a whole bunch of different notifications, and your body responds to that as a stressor, right? So the first thing that you're doing in the morning, if you do that, is that you're just causing a lot of stress and a lot of panic, and saying, okay, I need to do all these things in the day. So I try and push that off as far as I possibly can, and not look at my phone for the first hour of the day. Usually right now I'm playing around with meditation in the morning, and there's an app by Sam Harris, which I'm really, really, really liking. He does a guided meditation. So he has 50 sessions, and I'm playing around with that now. Other than that, usually it's getting some kind of a movement practice in the morning, and then a cold shower. The cold shower is one of those things where anytime I tell my girlfriends about, they spit at me basically and just say that's ridiculous. And it is. But for me, I found it to be one of those things that once I kind of rip that Band-Aid off in the morning and just say, yep, I got my cold shower out of the way, I end up having more energy. And also there's an element of I've conquered a little bit of a fear. And so therefore the rest of the day, it's just gravy on top. So that being said, cold thermogenesis, one thing, or taking a cold shower, if you are going to do it, what you're looking to do is get your skin to kind of I think it's 55 degrees or so in Fahrenheit. I'm not really sure what that is in Celsius, but you're trying to get your skin to be pink. And at that point, that's when you actually start having the benefits. You can work your way up. In the very beginning, so there's two types of people, right? The people that can really just go cold turkey and completely go cold. I wasn't that person. I needed to work my way up. And so I would do 30 seconds, have a hot shower. And then at the very end, go 30 seconds, then 40 seconds, then 50 seconds, right? So now it's honestly, the water here is not cold enough. And that's not just the Russian in me talking. But that being said, the one caveat with cold thermogenesis is, and it's specific for women, is that if you have a problem with your thyroid, then cold thermogenesis may not be a wise decision for you. So before jumping in and just saying, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to go for a cold shower, then check out if you have hormonal imbalance or some sort of a thyroid problem, either elevated or underutilized, then do a little bit more research and see if this is the right route for you. And then in the evening time, it's very similar in the sense that I love, by the way, Yulia, that, or whoever it was that asked, that, what is your routine? Because I think that is a really, really, kind of smart thing to ask.
The routine is really important. In the evening, my big hack, and that the kids really like as well, is that we eat to candlelight, because red light doesn't disturb the receptors in your eyes. It triggers you down to you're winding down. They like to light the candles. But actually it encourages more talking. So if you're a couple, it's a super sexy thing to do as well. It's so much better than pulling a big white light over everything. And in the bedroom too, red lights gives a great message. I think my neighbors probably think there's something really weird going on with the red light in the window, but it's really, it's not attacking you, and it also triggers your head to know it's time for bed. And it's coming back to that kind of life I lived when I was in Spain. You'd wind down on the sunset. So beside my bed is only a red light. I can read. I use blue blocking glasses anyway, and definitely no phone. And I get such a kick out of pressing flight mode, because I know I don't care what's going on. I don't care what's happening in a WhatsApp group or what argument on Facebook is going on. I'm in control, and I turn it off, and it feels really good. And it's the tiny little things that you do to know that you're in control of your day. That means when you wake up, and not to a crazy alarm, but to a nice alarm, or naturally, like you're saying, so that when you wake up, you're waking up gently, and you're not diving for the phone and the messages that you missed, because it gives yourself a message that you're in control of you. So then you're not starting off on the left foot, on the back foot. You're starting off in the parasympathetic side. You're relaxed. Your cortisol still hasn't gone wham. Then look at the bright light, and it's time to wake up.
So to add on to that, Fiona, just in terms of if people haven't, blue blocking glasses are these. Right? There's many different brands out there. And then you can turn, this is an iPhone, so you can turn your phone to be red as well, right? If you have an Android phone, you can do that as well. These two things, to me, if I do this, I am comatose in an hour, right? So for my friends who are not biohackers, my friends who are saying, or if you have clients, again, who are very kind of high stress and high strung, I would say those two things would impact their sleep and kind of their sleep ritual a lot more so than, lavender that oftentimes is touted as the best thing for somebody who's an insomniac. Because ultimately the light, so just one last thing is that basically what ends up happening is when you end up looking at light, right? If you look at a light bulb when you go into the bathroom, right, and it's not one of these red light bulbs, you are signaling to your body, your eyes are getting that signal that it's actually midday. It's actually solar noon. What happens in solar noon? Nobody's sleeping at solar noon, right? You're awake, right? So you're getting this input, this kind of signal, right? And our bodies respond to signals, right? So ultimately you're getting this signal to say, no, wake up, wake up, wake up. So if you're looking at your phone an hour or 2 hours, and 2 hours before bed, then your body is getting that light, and that light is shutting off whether you're creating melatonin or not. One of the books that Matthew Walker points out is that melatonin is a signaling molecule and it takes 2 to 3 hours for it to ramp up. So oftentimes people are saying, oh, well, I turned off my phone a half hour before I went to sleep. That's good. That's great. Baby steps. But the more that you can reduce that, kind of increase that time before you go to sleep. So literally what Fiona was just saying of having dinner by candlelight, or completely just changing out the lights around your house such that you are having red lights, and your phones also are similar, are using flux or having that blue blocking kind of cover over it.
Thank you. And we also have one special question to Fiona. Fiona, you talked about magnesium, and our guests ask you give more specific information. Which products you recommend with magnesium? And explain one more time what do you mean under the tongue magnesium, and does it absorb better than through the skin? So explain again, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. Biohacking, as you know, is often by reputation, can be very expensive, but it can also not be. Magnesium Epsom salts baths, if you have one at night, magnesium goes into your skin, which means you're not digesting it, it's not going into the gut. If we're eating the magnesium that you get from vegetables, that's okay, your body knows how to do that. But if you're taking a random magnesium pill, one, you don't know what kind of magnesium it is, etc., etc. So Epsom salt is citric magnesium, and it's a wonderful relaxation. It puts your body, and it changes your temperature so that when you go to bed, your temperature drops again. So you're going to sleep. So not only is it a good thing to do at night, but it also absorbs the magnesium. If you're going to take magnesium that you know, not all of us have the time for a bath at night or even want to. So if you look for a magnesium that you can spray, and it's the same with CBD, if you take it in to your mouth, it goes into your gut, and you'll maybe get about 16% of its benefit for relaxing. Some people have CBD at night before bed, some people have melatonin, but if you have magnesium at night, you can buy it as a cream, or you can spray it. And if you spray it under your tongue, it goes into your cheeks and you're not swallowing it. So it's absorbing into your bloodstream more. And I've had people who've been having panic attacks for years, and they've come to me and told me about their childhood, told me all of their problems. And when I've done a check of their vitamins and I've suggested magnesium, boom, it just goes. It's so much more powerful if your specific problem, depending on your specific problem, than an antidepressant, and so much better for women. It's about recognizing that we're women and going, hey, it's my time for a bath and I'm going to ritualize it. You use that word, Dasha, and I think if we can make a ceremony out of the smallest things, we're giving ourselves time, we're winding down. And so that would be my recommendation. You can take magnesium orally, but best off taking it with an MCT oil or something so that you're protecting your gut.
Thank you, Fiona. And Johanna, would you like to add something about magnesium? Because I also know you use it.
Yeah, I do use it. I do think that having a bath is a great thing as well, as Fiona mentioned. I also use Transdermal Creams. So you can buy lots of great creams. There's a great company called Better You, and they do wonderful magnesium body lotions, sprays that have got specifically for joint health, bone health. They have a lavender infused body lotion that you can rub in at night, which helps you sleep. Big fan, absolutely love it. Again, transdermal is best because it goes straight into your bloodstream. We all know that 68% of whatever goes onto the skin goes into your system and it gets absorbed straight away. So I do actually also take magnesium in the evening as well, some tablets. plant-based supplements always. I recommend Viridian. They're very good. The main reason is because magnesium, most people in the world are deficient of magnesium. Magnesium is needed for over 300 enzymatic processes in the body. And so basically, if you don't have magnesium, your body's going to be pulling for all over the joint to remineralize itself. And so taking all the basic minerals, there's 78 different minerals, taking all of those is great. And there's a great company called Cell Nutrition, and they do ampules actually of these 78 minerals. And you basically take one in the morning, which is a hypertonic drink, and you take one in the evening, which is an isotonic drink. And that basically can load your system, and they are fantastic. If you are menopausal and you suffer from night sweats, they really help with that. Because they help to balance your hormones, and everything is mineralized. So most people are lacking in magnesium. So I definitely say that it's vital for people to take. Some of my clients do take, if they're taking it at night, they may find in the morning they have very loose bowels, because some types of magnesium can cause that, such as oxide, which are the not so expensive ones. So you need to be careful. You may need to take one in the morning and one in the evening, rather than stacking up just in the evening.
Good. So my next question will be, what is difference between biohacking for men and women? That is what we are going to discuss next. But in the same time, one of the guests asked almost the same question. And okay, let's start discuss this. What is difference between biohacking for men and women?
Advice out there is actually pretty non-gender specific, and a majority of the tests done have been on men. Women, however, we need and we deserve biologically specific information based on our unique hormonal patterns. We all know about the 24-hour circadian cycle, where we sleep and we wake, and we all know that we've got to try and get into sync with that as best as we can. Men and women both have this 24-hour cycle. Within this time, also, men have when they wake up, they have high cortisol and they have high testosterone. This makes them doers in the morning. They get up, they want to do the work, they exercise, they've got tons of stuff that they've got to do. And then as this decreases through the day, what happens is they become more social. Their estrogen comes out a bit more and they want to hang out with their friends. So that's kind of how, and that goes around on a 24-hour cycle for them. But for us women, it's different. So from the day that we have our first bleed, when our puberty starts, to the day that we have our last ever bleed, we also have an infradian rhythm, or an infradian cycle. And this is basically our 28-day hormonal cycle. And that's when we're in sync with this, that's when we really notice the benefits in all areas of our life. And you can even prevent diseases in the long term. So this cycle has 4 phases. The first phase is menstruation. That normally lasts, say, 3 to 7 days. Then the second phase is the follicular phase, lasting 7 to 10 days. Then it's ovulation, lasting 3 to 5 days. And then it's the luteal phase, which lasts 10 to 14 days. So according to what phase you are in your cycle, you have to adjust your food, relationships, exercise, and your focus, so your mind, according to what your hormones are doing to help you stay balanced and have energy throughout that cycle. So let me give you an example. So phase 1 of the hormones, with the menstruation phase, our hormones are super low. So we need to eat proteins, fats, low glycemic index vegetables, and fruit to help us keep the blood sugar balanced. You need to take things like seaweed and seafood to help remineralize the body with the iron and the zinc that is lost during the period. Stews and soups are great at this time, but this is not the time for a HIIT workout, okay? You've got to do more things like yoga, Pilates, light walking. If you are into HIIT, the best time to do that would be when you're ovulating, because when you're ovulating, all your hormones are surging. You've got so much energy, so you can like go crazy. So this is it. You basically need to find your flow and stay in that. And then when you're pregnant, you are not in the flow. So this is separate. So when you fall pregnant, you come out of the flow, and it's a completely separate biohacking scenario. And also when you finish your last bleed ever and you go into menopause, again, you're not in the flow. So normally the flow lasts for about 40 years for most women. So when you're pregnant, as I said, yeah, that goes thing. Another thing I would like to add, apart from the cycle, is that women are naturally very more intuitive, and we need to tap into this. I think we need to listen to our bodies and feel and get what it needs. That's very important, obviously, when you're pregnant as well, because you need to understand what's going on with your body to help the baby get what it needs. We need to always be managing our stress and our mind to ensure that we don't get out of balance from those as well. So we've got a few things to consider. So that's it.
Yeah, so Johanna, it starts to be more complicated because we should use different biohacks in different periods. And one of the questions from
Exactly.
is a cold shower allowed when you're pregnant? So.
Well, it's not a question of really being allowed. There's been no test to say that it can be really damaging. I think it's best to do what you feel. What you feel is appropriate when you're pregnant. I wouldn't go for you definitely shouldn't do cryotherapy, and I wouldn't go for a hell of a blather like 5-10 minute cold shower. Have a warm shower, whatever you feel. You definitely don't want a hot shower either, or a hot bath. Most of it should be warm, but you can finish with like a little cool blast, just to lift you up and put it on your third eye here, and that will really just wake you up. When you're pregnant, this is not the time to be biohacking for detox. This is not the time to be biohacking for autophagy, for these things. It's all about nourishing yourself and your baby. That everything else you can do before and after you've breastfed the child. This is about nourishing and about building. Okay, so a cold shower you can do, but for a small amount of time, maybe just a short burst at the end. I wouldn't recommend it for a whole time.
Mm-hmm. So if, as far as I understand, the most common advice, don't use any extra changes while you are pregnant in that period. So if you already have been used some cold shower before, maybe you can continue to do this. If it's some very extra and some special, don't start
something you haven't been doing before. It's the same with exercise. If your body's used to being exercise, then you can continue doing pretty much what you were doing, maybe not lifting so many heavy weights, and be careful in the first trimester. But yeah, absolutely. If your body's used to things, then normally it's pretty good. But the first trimester is when you need to be more careful as to the second and third, because the first you still have a risk of a miscarriage, and that can happen for all sorts of reasons. And you'll always be, when it happens, because I've had one, you will think, was it this, was it that, what did I do, I did this, I did that, oh my god, and you'll always blame yourself. So you never know. So it's not worth taking any crazy risks in your first trimester.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Thank you. And I would like to remind that we are discussing our fourth question. And the question is, what is the difference between biohacking for men and women? Dasha, now please tell us about it.
Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing is I think somebody had asked this, is beside the fact that we're vastly underrepresented in the field. Yes, that is the first thing, right? So I think that is what we need. We are, as a community, are starting to change, right? Starting to change the fact that we don't have enough research. And the reason there is not enough research on women is because, frankly, we're complicated. And I think that is a very large part of of the story, right? So for me, from what I've been researching and reading, biohacking for women is tremendously different, in part because exactly what Johanna was just saying, is that we change much, much more frequently. So what does that mean? That means that my brother, my friends, my male friends, they are much more consistent, right? So they can eat a specific diet through and through and through and through, and that's fine. Their bodies end up actually liking that, and they like that consistency. Whereas with women, ultimately, actually, we need to be changing. We need to be changing what we eat, how we work out, how we feel, how we sit, everything needs to be adapted. And unfortunately, that adaptation is basically every single week. So every single week we should be doing something different. Now, the problem again is because there isn't that much research out there just yet, it ends up being an N of one, and it ends up being what you know and what you intuitively feel, which is, I think, a little bit of the kind of a theme that we're starting to see come out as well, right? So the week before you're menstruating, then yes, your food choices are going to change. But reading into those and saying, okay, well, why am I looking into wanting, why do I want more cheese? Why do I want more chocolate? Why do I want, oh, okay, I need more fats, right? So really thinking that through and kind of creating that research for yourself to say, this is why I need to change. Now, the two things that so one in particular for females that is slightly different that I've read about is on fasting. So there's a guy by the name of Sean Wells, wonderful researcher, goes by Zone Halo, but just recently changed to ingredientologist. He has a blog post out there on fasting for women. So for any of those folks that are fasting and saying, oh, well, I need to do these 72-hour challenges or multi-day fasting, some of the research that's coming out is that maybe that's not exactly what we should be doing, right? Maybe we should be fasting, but maybe it's only 16 hours or 24 hours. So I think that is one of the main things that I've seen so far in terms of the differences between men and women for biohacking, being that women need, if we do fast, we need probably less of it in order to have a similar effect. The other thing that I would just want to probably call out is from a biohacking standpoint, we as women put a lot more products on ourselves, right? So whether that's makeup or that's, slathering ourselves with lotion or whatever it is, perfumes, all that kind of stuff, right? There's more and more research, and I know, Johanna, you and I were kind of talking about this outside of this, is how much does our environment and how much do those types of things really impact us and impact specifically our hormones. So if you're putting something on your body every single day, right? We're putting makeup on every single day, or slathering ourselves with this lotion that if you read the lotion ingredients, there's 20 ingredients in there. We are so careful and so conscious of what we're doing in terms of the food that we're putting into our bodies, but are we that cautious and that careful with the products that we're putting onto our skins, which our skin is one of the largest organs in our bodies. So I would just probably caution and say that and call that out, because I don't think that men put as many products and therefore probably aren't as susceptible to having negative effects to these skin products on their hormones and on their bodies.
I agree. And I can also just like to add there as well is that it's not just personal care products, but often the women who clean the house, and it's your cleaning products as well. Most of what you have are toxic, like seriously toxic. And you can have gene deficiencies. I actually have a gene deficiency, which means that I can't breathe in toxic chemicals. And for years, I didn't realize I was getting this like red rash across my face every time I would clean the house or breathe in bleach or chlorine or any of these things. Had my genes tested, realized that's what it was. So then I cleaned out everything there's so many wonderful brands out there. E-Cover is my staple that I use at home. It's another one called the Green Goddess. She does some amazing products. And there's no excuses these days. You don't need to use bleach. You can use oxygen bleach. And even the things that you wash your clothes with, that touches your skin as well. So, and tumble drying, softening sheets or whatever, never use those. They're full of what we call xenoestrogens. And these xenoestrogens mess up our endocrine system, and you can eventually become infertile. Plus it plays up with it can cause cancers that are a result of high estrogen, such as breast cancer, prostate cancer, all these things. So you need to be aware of everything, literally.
Thank you. So again, question: what is the difference between biohacking for women and men? Fiona, your answer, please.
Again, Johanna and Dasha have covered covered what I would have said. So I suppose just because it's hard for people to catch up on everything, I'll just reiterate it, that the chemicals that are in all the modern products that we have really do affect us. In addition, there are molds. A lot of people are in their house, and a lot at the moment, and we've got to make sure our bathroom is ventilated, because that has a huge effect on our emotional well-being. And not enough is understood or recognized about molds. So activated charcoal is a must. It must be taken to take out the toxins, to help with the molds, but also, again, go and investigate. If your mood is low because you've been staying inside a lot, just make sure your house is clean, but be careful of your products. Like Johanna's come up with some really great brand names and recommendations. I think it would be great to get some of these, and maybe Mick can write them down for everyone to have. And to do it the fasting, this is extremely important. Our bodies require a huge amount of care. And when we're doing the fasting, you know, you've got people who are eating in an 8-hour window, and oh, I feel fantastic, but that is not for women. A 12, 11, or 11 hour is good enough. As long as you can give your body a good 13 hours of no eating every single day, for women, that is great. And to be mindful of what time of the month it is and what time of your life it is. Because if you're not getting enough energy in to just keep the momentum going, the fasting is not really going to help you. It's that term hormesis that, yes, you can put a bit of stress on yourself, but too much is bad for you. But definitely cut eating, stop eating at like 9 o'clock in the evening, over, if not earlier, and as long as, and maybe start again at 10 the next day. Well, work it out, whatever works for you. But products, mold, look into the mold, use activated charcoal, and throw that sun factor protection in the bin. You can use chaga mushrooms, have melanin, which boost up your protection, astaxanthin, which I can never pronounce, that is incredible. It is the red from, you know, like salmon, shrimp, flamingos. This is the stuff that gets a salmon pushing itself upstream and feeding their muscles. And it's incredibly powerful supplement for women to take, and is, you know, so much more concentrated and better than vitamin C. So especially at this time that we're in, it's really beneficial. So throw the SPF, if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere, different if you're in Southern Hemisphere, California and down towards the Med, but we don't need it up here. We're not, you know, we walk to the car, we're in the tube, we're not as much outside. If you get your sun in the morning and your sun in the evening, you will get a tan and you won't burn.
Can I add to that as well, that carrot seed oil has a natural SPF of 45.
Really?
Coconut oil, yes, coconut oil has a natural SPF of 6. So you can also use those, but there are also some great brands out there that have some fabulous all natural sun lotions. I probably wouldn't recommend a mineral one because that kind of like coats you in like this white coating, but there are some really good brands out there, and if anyone's interested, I can suggest a few on that as well. And I'd like to add to the intermittent fasting that if you're trying to get pregnant, if you're trying to conceive at that point in your life, it's not something that you should be doing unless you have been doing it for many, many years before, because it can actually be detrimental to your fertility. So they've done tests on female rats and that have done long intermittent fasting, and it's shown that it can shrink the size of their ovaries and actually make them completely infertile. So that's something that you want to consider. And even if you're in the flow and you don't want to get pregnant, so you think, well, it's fine, you know, then okay, go ahead and do your intermittent fasting. As Fiona said, 12 hours is the ultimate in a way for women. That's more than enough unless you've been doing longer before. So if you've been doing longer before, then you can kind of get into that, but it's not recommended that you do it every day. And actually fasting for 2 days in a row, like proper fasting, is not recommended for women and can really mess with your hormones. I've done it, completely sent me over the edge or to another level basically. So it doesn't work for everybody. It's something that you will have to play with, and do not do intermittent fasting if you suffer from an eating disorder. If you have anything like endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, all these, any kind of hormone disruption already that you've been diagnosed with from your by your doctor, you need to work with a specialist and figure out what's best for your body.
And if I can just add, Johanna, like what you're saying is brilliant. And I think when we had a question or a comment rather, saying that Stacey Sims, who is a wonderful, wonderful doctor, and if you are looking for somebody to follow, she's tremendous. She's absolutely tremendous. She often says that women are not small men. That's kind of her tagline. And she does say that fasting and a paleo diet is really good for females. That being said, her focus is very much on athletes. So for those women who we are sitting in front of a computer and we aren't burning off that adrenaline, burning off that cortisol, we don't have that balance. So that's wherein the question about fasting for, and how Dr. Stacey Sims talks about it, there is a bit of a nuance. So just doubling down, I guess, on what Fiona and Johanna said, which is fasting is great. And Dr. Stacey Sims would also say that fasting is great. But again, for those women who are not pro athletes, for those women who are not, fasting may be something that you just need to do as per what, kind of a shortened time period. I think the other thing that I didn't mention before is that I think the main difference between men and women from a biohacking standpoint is that I think of women as Goldilocks, right? Where we can't have too much and we can't have too little, and it has to be just right. And it's frustrating as all hell, right? Because you can have too high of estrogen, and then what do? Right? And you end up having all these issues. You can have too low of estrogen, and you can have very similar issues or very different issues, right? So I think, whereas men, I find them, and maybe men would completely disagree with me, but I find that they're more like Baloo from the Jungle Book, right? They just need the bare necessities, So it's, it's a little bit of, I think that we as women are just more nuanced, and therefore we need to listen more to those nuances.
Okay, thank you. John, I wonder, please, have you already discussed what is difference in doing exercises, movement in different period of time? Can you suggest something about this very quickly?
The most important thing is that you don't overload your hormones. So your hormones are strongest when you're ovulating. So basically you can do lots of HIIT then. And if you like to do strength training, that's good to do at the beginning of the fourth phase, which is the follicular, the luteal phase, sorry. That's a good time to do that. But then again, as you're coming towards the end of that, you're coming into your menstruation, you need to slow down. You need to just rest more and recuperate and go back to the yoga and the Pilates. So it's about building, you can build it up and then bring it down again, basically. So it's about finding whatever you love, whether you like to bounce on a trampoline, whether you like to do the strength training or the cardio, and fit that into where it works best according to your hormones. But one thing to note is that you can't do the same thing for the whole month and not expect to feel like crap at some point, because you will overtax your body basically, and your hormones will get completely out of sync. So there is actually an app that you can download. It's called the In the Flow app, and this will then you put in your dates with regards to your periods, and it's super easy. You can see what phase you're in. It tells you with regards to your relationships when it's a good time to be romantic and all this stuff, and when you need maybe more lube, and when it's coming to the sexual encounters, when's best to focus on doing a big presentation. This is not in your menstruation cycle, for example, but and all the best foods to eat at different times. So I don't want to get into everything now because it take up too much time. But if you download,
it takes a lot of time to describe all this.
The book is by Alyssa Vitter, It's called In the Flow, and that goes with her app, and they are both epic.
Thank you. Here is one more additional question for Fiona, and after this we will start discuss my next question. So Fiona, some question about vitamin D3. I have read that the recommended daily dose of vitamin D3 supplements is 400 IU, but I have seen from other source that you recommended, Fiona. You recommended that you should take 5 IU daily, and I have read that excess of vitamin D can be harmful the heart and bones. So this is question about how do we know how many vitamin D should we use daily? And yeah, I think it is all about measurement and tracking results.
All biohacking, it's bio-individual. So you can be a man or a woman, it's going to be different. But it's going to be different for each person because our environment's different. I'm in London. I was in a small village in Spain. Dasha's in California, and by looking at her Instagram, has the world, and it's beautiful and healthy. Johanna, like me, is in London. So it's really sunny at the moment. So I haven't been putting any vitamin D3 into the smoothies that I make because there isn't any reason. But in the winter, start with something. Always with biohacking, you start your supplementation low and you check, because I know we're going on to be talking about measurement. So you get to see how you feel. A lot of biohackers use Fitbits or their Apple Watch or Oura Rings to see what's working. But be always careful when you supplement. Doctors don't know, most GPs don't know anything about supplementation or a very deep level of it. So it will be up to you, and that is the hallmark of a biohacker. They investigate, they find out what's right for them, because something else that you might be doing, you might be upping your D. So always start low.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling good, stop it. Yeah? You're frozen.
Can I add in something there about the vitamin D to supplementing?
Yeah, definitely.
I do, for sure. Obviously, if you're getting natural sunlight at least 20 minutes a day on your skin, and a great place is on the inside of your arms or on your legs, anywhere, then you don't really need to supplement that much. That's if you're only getting that every day. And the issue why she's saying with regards to be harmful to the heart and to the bones, if you don't take D3 with K2, it's K2 vitamin that takes the calcium to the bones rather than keeping it into the heart. So this is what I think she's talking about, and this is why it's important that you take the two of them together. And not many people realize that, but and this can also be something that is distinguished in your gene analysis as well. 23andMe can first of all tell you whether or not you have higher demand or higher need for vitamin D. And you go on to the next stage with Dr. Anthony, again, it will tell you, he can tell you further whether or not, for example, I have an issue with calcium building up in my arteries. So for me, K2 is vital to be able to take that calcium away from my arteries and into my bones where it's needed to prevent osteoporosis and things like that, which a lot of women suffer from, low bone density. And then because if you have calcium is bad in the arteries, this is plaque, it's bad cholesterol that builds up, and it can eventually cause a heart attack.
Yeah, I would like also add from my side that actually the level of vitamin D3 it's one of the main benchmarks, and to start eat any vitamin D3, you should firstly clinically check what is the level of vitamin D in your body right now, and then make decisions how many
Yes.
daily, how many daily you should.
It's best to have the test done. And also, if people are going for these IV drips, you know, where you just walk into a shop and you take an IV drip, bad idea. Okay, because unless they're testing you before to see what your levels are of these things, and then they're just going to inject you with something and you don't even know the quality of what's going into you. It's all synthetic. It's a really bad idea. So do your own testing, go to a reputable lab, help get someone with a health and wellness background, a functional medicine.
Yeah, it's very easy test for everyone, and for kids for sure, it's very important.
The doctor will even test you.
So let's start conversation. Let's answer questions. How to start biohacking for women, and maybe you will give some suggestions, some recommendations for different age. So how to start biohacking for women in different age?
I don't really think, from my point of view, the age matters too much. It's about getting the fundamentals right. The first biohack I think is important to do is your water. So I have hydrogen water. So you can have all of the other kind of waters. People have their own thing that they want to do, but get rid of the plastics as much as possible. Use glass bottles, because the plastics, I'd imagine Johanna probably knows an awful lot about the BPAs, not my area, so that might be interesting to discuss. But I have hydrogen infused water because it very easily passes through into the blood-brain barrier. So anything that you're doing, any supplementation that you're doing, anything, it makes it work better. So I would go for the fundamental and then go age appropriate. Johanna, do you want to take up about?
John, I think John would like to add something. Yeah, John.
Yeah, so with basically, for where would I get started with women's biohacking? So there's so much you can do, but when I start with my clients, I always ask them, right, let's look at the 6 main pillars of health as I describe them, and where are you feeling worst? Okay, so you've got sleep, nutrition, exercise, toxic environment, mind management, and stress management. So if you look at yourself, you say, right, okay, I know I'm eating so badly. I eat processed foods a lot. I get takeaways. Then you need to start with your nutrition. If you know that you're in insomniac, you can never fall asleep, you wake up, all these problems, you sleep for maybe 4 hours, focus on your sleep, start there. If you know you sit on the couch for 4 hours every night and you don't do any exercise in the day, you sit in front of a computer all day, then you start with your exercise. With regards to toxic environment, maybe you're a painter, so you're surrounded by toxic fumes. Maybe you sit in an office for 8 hours of the day and you've got screens coming at you from every angle. You need to look at your EMF exposure, and you need to get your blue light blocking glasses. I highly recommend Blue Blocks, but there are lots of other companies out there. And so, you need to protect your hormones and keep in sync again with your flow and with your circadian rhythm. So choose one of those and then start with that. And to be honest, these areas are all related. So if you start biohacking, for example, for healthy nutrition, you start eating better, you take out the sugar, the processed foods, all the toxic chemicals, you eat organic, mostly plant-based, not estrogen, you don't juice estrogenic vegetables, these kind of things, then it will have a knock-on effect to your sleep. You'll probably end up sleeping better. You'll have more energy, so maybe you want to exercise more. You'll have better skin, your digestion will improve. So it has a knock-on effect. And that's why the body is so amazing, because it's holistic. One thing will trigger lots of other things to hopefully go well. But I would say that if you've actually been diagnosed with something specific from your doctor, an itis or a disease or a cancer, then you start with that, okay? So for example, if you've got diabetes, you start with your nutrition. If you've got IBS, again, you start with your nutrition, but also look at your stress management. How are you controlling your stress, and your mind management? How do you talk to yourself? When I say mind management, I mean, our brain is 1%. our mind is 99%. And our mind is our thoughts, our feelings, and our choices, okay? So a lot of us, a lot of women are our own worst critique. Our inner mean girl goes on and on and on, and we say these horrible things to ourselves all day long. And this is toxic, okay? We need to stop doing this. We need to love ourselves, respect ourselves, and everything else. So that's really important. Oh, my love's fallen down. How annoying. Yeah, so that's kind of where I would say that you start with. And if, for example, you've been diagnosed with breast cancer, then you need to start with looking at your exposure to xenoestrogens in your environment, your personal care products, get rid of anything that has got aluminium in it, get rid of all the toxic Sure deodorants and all the other ones, you know, because the aluminium in your deodorant goes straight into your lymph system that goes right to your breast. Never, ladies, never, ever, ever wear an underwired bra, okay? The lead in the bra, when you sweat, will seep straight into your skin, and that is a toxin that your body, your liver has to process, okay? So that's another big cause of breast cancer. And again, look at all the different estrogen, the BPA from the plastics, the phthalates in your personal care products and in the home cleaning products. Again, don't use toothpaste with fluoride, it messes with your thyroid. And again, nail polishes, make sure they're free from all the toxic chemicals. Again, Sally Hansen has finally managed to bring out a great vegan plant-based one, which is amazing. Otherwise, there are a few good brands. Pacifica out there. Butter is another great all-natural nail polish. This is things that people don't think about, but often then you put your fingers in your mouth quite a lot in the daytime, and then that, whatever's on there, goes into your bloodstream again, so you don't think about these things. So it's very important. I mean, and at night, don't use some toxic night cream on your face. Just put coconut oil on. That's what I do. I mean, literally, and it's so cheap. You spend something pounds on creme de la mer that is toxic. And so you're not only like robbing me blind for my money, you're also taking my endocrine system, okay? So just put coconut oil on at night, and if you get a spot, then tea tree oil is a wonderful natural thing for a spot. You can use a little bit of sulfur. There's a great company called the Clay Cure. They do this amazing mask, and it's basically it's made from clay and spirulina, and it's fab. If I get a spot, I just put it on there and it dries it up. It's really, really good. So I highly recommend that. There are lots of little tips and tricks. Am I going on too much? I better shut up, sorry.
Okay, so that is your magic coconut oil for night. So that is why you're so beautiful. Good. So we have short time already, but we have 2 more questions which I was going to discuss with you. But before we will start discuss last 2 my questions, Dasha, please suggest how to start biohacking for women, maybe according to some age. So some main recommendations from you how to start.
How to start. So everything that Johanna said, I agree with. It's a lot though. And I think the first point that she said in the beginning is a very, very valid one, which is start with what is ailing you the most, right? For me, it was my brain health. I literally could not think. So for me, it was, all right, I need to fix my brain. So then I went from a vegetarian diet to eating DHA, right? So for everybody on this, it's what is ailing you the most. If there isn't anything specifically that's ailing you, I would recommend the order of fixing your gut first and then fixing your hormones. Our gut and our brain axis are linked very much so, and then our hormones follow. So if you start, again, many times people will say, well, I have a hormonal imbalance. Well, have you yet fixed your gut? Have you yet worked on your sleep? If you haven't worked on those things, then you're just, like I said in the very beginning, you're doing it backwards. So for me, it would be focus on your gut, see if you have any issues. I didn't realize that I had effectively kind of like a lactose intolerant, gut and my stomach always is aching after I eat cheese. But the problem is that it's a delayed onset. So I didn't actually put 2 and 2 together. So if you haven't already, I think many women probably on this podcast already have done this, but if you haven't, I would recommend a journal. It's boring, it's annoying, it's not fun to do, but that's what we do as biohackers, right? We track and start to notice these patterns. So I would probably use either a journal to try and figure out how your gut is, how you're feeling, right? If there's any specific foods that are triggering you that you don't even realize that they are. And then I would really start tracking your cycle. So I think Fiona and Johanna both said that there's Flow Cycle. I personally like Clue, which is a really good app to track your cycle. And then it's nice to also track different inputs as well. So how your sleep quality is, what your libido was, what you crave, what types of cravings did you have, what was your emotional balance. I quite like Clue for that. Also Natural Cycles is a good app as well. So I would say, again, if there's something acute, go and fix that first, or start looking into that first, because that's going to be your biggest problem, right? If it's nothing acute, then start the journaling exercise in one way, shape, or form, and be rigorous about it. Because now, when I come to my doctors, I literally can show them and say, "See, this is my story," and it actually helps the whole ecosystem of trying to figure out what's going on, because I've given them data. They now have all of this information that they can work with me on, rather than me being a patient that comes in and says, "I don't know, doc, but in 15 minutes, fix me." So I'm helping them help me. So that's what I would say.
Oh, what about our question about the main benchmark that you recommend to measure, which is very simple, that everyone can check at home, and some more complicated which we should check in clinics. So that was my previous question I was going to ask, and the next question I was going to ask your recommendations about some technology and of course books. Yeah. So
sure. So from an age range, right? So let's say if I'm 32, so maybe I can focus on the younger ages, if you will. So 18 to 35, give or take, or into your 30s. I think a lot of women don't think that they have problems. They don't think that maybe problems aren't starting to arise just yet. So there's that folly of feeling invincible. If folks fall into that category, regardless, I think there's also a lot of women who start to have period pains. I think besides testing, which yes, everybody should go and get a hormonal panel test done. And the one that I really recommend is called the Dutch hormonal panel test. It's DUTCH. Dr. Carrie Jones is a fantastic person to follow. Absolutely tremendous. But again, this is a test that's going to cost some money. So I would say before even going on the testing route, there's things that you could do at home. So if you are cycling, the question is, how does your blood look, right? You want your blood to look, while you're menstruating, to have a dark color, kind of a dark cherry color. If it's spotty, if it's kind of more pinkish colored, if it's more kind of like watercolor, if you will, then that could be signs of infection. That could be signs of a thyroid problem. There could be a lot of different things going on there. So that's a really quick test. You can literally see what's going on. Another thing just to think about is also, birth control. I think that is a very taboo topic. It's a very individual topic, but one that I think is quite important, especially between the ages of 18 into 35, let's say, because oftentimes that's the age where women want to be sexually active or are sexually active, and are very much trying not to get pregnant. There's a podcast that my friend Oksana had sent me yesterday, and I would highly, highly recommend it. There's a book also by Dr. Sarah Hill. I had put it into the tips. It's called Brain on Birth Control. I listened to the podcast yesterday, and my brain was literally blown. Highly, highly, highly recommend listening to that podcast, reading that book, because it'll open your eyes in terms of birth control. And at least then you can be aware of what's going on, because birth control really does have a lot of negative effects to hormones, and especially as younger girls, that can really have reverberating effects further on into your life. Specifically, if you're starting to take birth control from the early onset of puberty up until the age 22 or 25, around that time when your brain actually kind of up until 22, 25, depending on where you're looking at the science, that's when your brain is still growing and still changing. So imagine if what you're doing from age 16 until age 22 is you're pumping yourself full of birth control, maybe not the best idea. Maybe there's other barrier methods, or maybe there's other ways to be able to be sexually active, but not necessarily be poisoning your body. So those would be two things kind of to think of. I mean, obviously from a from a testing standpoint, yes, there is 23andMe for genetics. Yes, there is. Again, I think the big thing is probably a hormonal panel test, which is the Dutch one.
Okay, thank you, Dasha. Johanna, your suggestions about what to check and which technology to use and books to read.
Oh, okay, so that's like 2 questions in one, 3 questions in one.
Oh, I didn't hit the technology. Whoops. You take the technology for me, Johanna.
I just want to add about the birth control pills as well. A lot of women get put on birth control because maybe they've got bad skin, because they've got endometriosis and other reasons. Just want to note, that's not going to help in the long term. When you come off your birth control, you will still have those symptoms. You will still have that problem, okay? And it will probably be worse. So you need to consider that, the synthetic, and also you may bleed, but this is a forced bleed. This is not your normal, natural menstruation. So we've all been there, we've all taken it. I mean, I took it and to help with my skin, and it helped for a time. When I came off, my skin erupted. So it's not the solution to everything. Do investigate what is going to work best for you, for sure. Okay, so with me, I would say home tests that you can do at home. I love like TCM and Ayurvedic medicine, so I do tongue diagnosis. With all my clients, I always get them to take a picture of their tongue and send it to me. So when you wake up in the morning, first thing in the morning, take a look at your tongue. If it's pale, then maybe you have a lack of blood and you perhaps have anemia. If it's yellowish, then it means you have excess bile in your gallbladder. You might have a liver issue. If it's blue, then you have a heart issue. Different parts of your tongue relate to different organs in the body. So if you have teeth marks around the edges, this indicates poor intestinal absorption and possibly a sluggish spleen. A coating over the tongue indicates toxins in the stomach and the small intestine and possibly the large intestine. So it's quite interesting to see when you've eaten certain foods the night before, how much coating you have on your tongue and what that difference is. So that's something to look out for. A yellow coating means that it's too much heat in your body and your colon needs to cleanse. Bless you, Dasha. And also important to note that once you've checked this and if you have a coating on your tongue, get a tongue scraper, like a proper one that's made from copper. You can buy them on the internet, they're fabulous. And if you don't have one, just use the back blunt edge of a knife, okay? And you go from the back to the front of your tongue, scrape, wipe it. Scrape, wipe it, scrape until it's clean. One thing you don't want to do is ingest all those toxins again, and because it's just a load of everything. So when we sleep, that is when our body excretes toxins. So the first thing you do when you wake up is you should eliminate these. You scrape your tongue, you have a good bowel movement, and you pee, and you blow your nose. These are the main ways that we excrete our toxins from our body. So, and then another thing is if you have a red tip to your tongue, that then means that you may have emotional issues, unresolved stress as well. I also love to do a stomach acid test. As we get older, our stomach acid decreases, and this can lead to malabsorption of nutrients. So you may be experiencing acid reflux, heartburn, digestive issues. On an empty stomach, first thing in the morning, before you eat anything, take 4 ounces of cold water with half a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate. That's baking soda. Make sure it's aluminium free, please. Drink it. Time how long it takes for you to burp, like proper burp. Stop after 5 minutes. If after 5 minutes you haven't taken a burp, then you've probably got pretty bad stomach acid. If you burp before 3 minutes, then you've got really good stomach acid. So that's good. And that's needed to help with proper digestion. Another good thing to look at would be your urine. This is very simple. Always be observing yourself. Your urine should be basically of nice light color. Yeah? If it's dark yellow, you are dehydrated and you might be constipated. If it has a foul smell, then this indicates toxins in your system. If it has a sweet smell, maybe you have got blood sugar problems. If it's cloudy, then this means you've got damp inside your body, and you're eating the wrong food, so you're very acidic. And another thing is check your stools. So figure out what's normal for you. It's so important. There's something called the Bristol stool chart, but they should obviously be a nice brown log, basically well formed. And they say that actually it's the length from here to here. So, but you wouldn't be able to see that far anyway. So if it's loose, you need to figure out why and all the different things. There's also, you can buy home pH strips. They're always fun. Check the pH of your urine, check your saliva in the morning. It should be mildly alkaline, okay? So around 7 or so. Other really cool things to, like, little hacks that you can look at home is if you have any white spots on your nails, that often means you have a zinc or calcium deficiency. If your nails break a lot, this means that your liver needs help. You may lack calcium, zinc, omegas, and you may have low stomach acid. So there's just a sign that you need to go and investigate further, basically. A lot of women get dark circles under their eyes. This means that in TCM, we say that you have a weak kidney energy. And the first thing I do every morning, as soon as I wake up, is I massage my kidneys. I massage my kidneys, I massage my liver. I will go across into my solar plexus. I go down in through my small intestine. I follow it round back up, across to my spleen, and then to my other kidney. So this is a great way to stimulate the chi and get your digestion flowing in the morning. If you have cracks in the corner of your mouth, that means you're deficient in vitamin B2. A lot of people get these small pimply little bumps on their arm, that means that you lack beta carotene, B complex, and possibly good fats in your diet. If you have cracked feet, soles, on the base of your sole, this often means that you have a yeast issue. So those are the basic ones you can do at home. And if you wanted to go in and do some proper testing, then I highly recommend a food intolerance testing. I love the biome test, which is it's a stool test for and it tells you amazing digestive issues. You get a great app to go with it. It tells you your superfoods that you can have every day, loads of them, your foods to enjoy freely, and then foods to avoid and foods to minimize. So it's life-changing, it's super good, but it probably only lasts for 90 days and then you need to do it again. Organic acid test goes into details with regards to candida and what's going on inside your body. If you're high on oxalates, salicylates, these kind of things, that can cause all sorts of issues in the body as well. For mold, as Fiona mentioned earlier, go and get a mycotoxin levels done. I did it, absolutely amazing. I live in a basement, and so we have a lot of mold down here, and so you have to go through a massive protocol, work with a functional medicine person, someone like myself, to clean yourself out from that. It's a big job. You can test for leaky gut. You can test for small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. If you have, put mildly, smelly farts often, okay, if you release a lot of gas and it's quite painful, you may have something called SIBO. It's not very well known. Your doctor will go, what is that? I mean, they won't have a clue what it is. So you can test for that and then work with a functional person to fix it. And then clinical tests as well. As I said before, 23andMe, get your code read by Dr. Anthony J. Go to your doctor though, start there, ask him to do as much as he can do for free or on your insurance. And women in their fertile ages, get your vitamin, mineral, and heavy metals checked, those levels, whether you do it by blood, hair, or urine, whatever it is, however you're doing it, or you can buy OligoScan. You also need to get your biomeasurements. You need to get your C-reactive protein, which is basically an inflammation marker. You need to have your iodine. You need to have your homocysteine, because high homocysteine would mean that your baby, if you were to fall pregnant, your baby more prone to birth defects. You need your fasted blood sugar. You need your D3. We've spoken about this, your K2, and a full thyroid panel plus antibodies. So you can see what's happening with your thyroid. Technologies. I've mentioned before the MyFlow app. If you want to get involved about your sleep, get the Aura ring. I've had mine for probably about a month now. And that's quite enlightening. It's quite interesting to see how much you may think you're getting a good night's sleep, but you can actually see how much light sleep you get, how much REM sleep you get, which is when you dream, and how much deep sleep. And it's the deep sleep is where our body actually really properly repairs itself, where the growth hormones come out and everything starts to recuperate properly. So it's a lot of fun. And then for menopausal women, I recommend something called the Chili Pad. And it's fabulous. It's basically a pad that goes underneath your sheet, and you can get it dual controlled, so your partner has one side and you have the other side, and you set the temperature throughout the night how you want it to be. So when you get in, it can be cool, and that helps to lower your blood, helps to lower your body temperature, which helps you to fall asleep. And then during the night can make you warmer. And when you suffer from night sweats, which for most women who are menopausal or even in your 30s, you can get them when your liver is trying to detox between the hours of 1 and 3. That's often when people wake up. You can also make it cooler then. And so when you wake up in the morning, it's slightly warmer. So that's an amazing device that I highly recommend. Another technology, I love the energy dots. You put them on the back of your phone or a Wi-Fi device basically, and they harmonize all the radiation around there. And if you use the code PureJo, you'll get 10% off those on their website. Blue light blocking glasses, we mentioned these before. I like the blue blocks. There's something else called Cool Core anti-radiation device. I'm going to be doing an interview with them on my podcast next week. And it's an attachment to your headphones to stop the EMFs. And basically every time you wear Bluetooth headphones, you are microwaving your brain. So you don't want to be doing that. I also highly recommend for menopausal women and for everybody, bamboo bedding. Okay, there's a great company called My Panda Life. And if you type in PureJo there, you'll also get 10% off. Bamboo is basically the fastest growing plant on the planet. So it's highly sustainable, it's very eco-friendly, all that jazz. And it's, in terms of bedding, clothing, tissues, it's wonderful. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial, antifungal. It's thermoregulating, so it keeps you cool when you're hot and keeps you hot when you're cold. So, I mean, it's just transformed my life. And then you get the linen as well to go with it. And it's so soft. I don't know how they do it. It's amazing. I use majority of my clothing is bamboo by a company called Booty. And they do epic workout gear. It's so good because it thermoregulates. So none of this like synthetic Lululemon stuff that like just you sweat and then it absolutely stinks when you take it off. It doesn't happen with bamboo, and it keeps you nice and cool. So when you're working out all the time, bamboo tissues, again, Cheeky Panda, I recommend for them, toilet tissues, nasal tissues, etc. And the other technology I love is Carol. Carol is an artificially intelligent exercise bike. And she basically gets you fit in 2 times 20-second sprints. Google it, carolfitai.com, and it's super good, although you cannot do it if you're pregnant, okay? And obviously don't do it when you're in your menstrual phase, first phase of your thing. And if you use the code PureJo there as well, you'll get 150 off the Carol pack. So yeah, that's done from me, I think.
Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Dasha. Thank you, Fiona. I see that this topic is really huge and a lot of details inside each question. And obviously, we have to start Biohacking for Females webinars every week or every month at least. I would like to add from me that as we see, main biohacks could be very simple and you just have to start. And if you would like to learn more about measurement and managing health, please attend our next webinars next Saturdays. There will be great speakers, so very great biohackers, scientists, and doctors. And if you would like to learn more about technology, solutions, and innovations in digital health biotech area, please join our virtual meetup on May 13th. There will be great discussion with industry experts about all innovations and all technologies in these areas. And if you would like to learn more about health optimization, longevity, please join our big event, virtual Biohacking Congress on July 17th. There will be a 5 hours event, and we are going to invite the best speakers, the best experts on biohacking, on health optimization, and please join us for that big event. Thank you for your time today. That was really nice to have you at this virtual event for 2 hours, and I hope that this discussion was helpful for beginners and for that who already have some experience, because I'm sure that exchange opinions is always useful. All our events you can find on Eventbrite. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and let's continue. Dasha, Fiona, Johanna, thank you very much for your time. That was great.
Thanks. Happy biohacking.
Bye. Happy Saturday. Happy Easter if you guys celebrate. Enjoy.
Ciao.
My best wishes go out to you and to all around you. Hope to see you soon at our next event. Thank you very much. Thank you.